Hey everybody, today's topic is the EP that Taylor Swift just dropped today as I'm recording this, and it'll go live on my video channel the day after. The EP, Dropped Your Hand While Dancing chapter. This is a compilation of 6 songs pulled from her most recent albums, which were both surprise albums, Evermore and Folklore. Most of them come from Evermore. I'm going to talk about those and review those and give you my input. I mean, it's just brilliant music and brilliant lyrics. Phenomenal gift to us, even though these songs have already been released. The grouping of them is really interesting. Hi, I'm Tim Wolf. I'm a Nashville singer-songwriter and artist. And there's a link down below where you can listen to some of my music. There's a link where you can get some of my merch if you'd be interested in that. And you can check that out. I'd appreciate that very much. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this video so you can be notified when new videos are uploaded. Please hit that notification bell. Thank you. I see you. Thank you. Appreciate it. This is an interesting drop. Taylor's been dropping. Last year, she dropped 2 albums that were very surprised. There were no advance notice, and she dropped them with like less than 24 hours notice. Folklore, and then Evermore was dropped in December, 3 days before her 31st birthday, and both of them are just tour de forces, and they really are sister albums that play off of each other. They were written and produced by pretty much the same team. Aaron Dessner from The National was heavily involved, and also Bon Iver, the lead singer, the principal of Bon Iver. A lot of critics are saying that Evermore is a bit more of a wintry album, and some are saying that Folklore is spring-summer, but I've also read critiques that said Folklore is more autumny and Evermore is wintry. So it seems to be there's a consensus that it's more of a wintry type album. The interesting thing about it is Aaron Dessner says, I've rarely had this kind of chemistry with anyone in my life to be able to write together, to make so many beautiful songs together in such a short period of time. Inevitably, I think we will continue to be in each other's artistic and personal lives. I don't know exactly what the next form will take, but certainly it will continue. I do think this story, this era has concluded, and I think in such a beautiful way with these sister records. They didn't really plan, according to what I've read, they didn't really plan on continuing doing another album, but they continued with the vibe after they finished Folklore, and they're sending. The typical way of doing it is Aaron would create the soundtrack or the music, send it to Taylor, and Taylor would send back often within hours a complete lyrical sheet for the song. And they continued to do that, and Aaron said that he didn't realize that they were writing another album until they'd already written 7 songs. So it just flowed out of them. And Taylor said, to put it plainly, we just couldn't stop writing songs. To try and make it more poetically, it feels like we were standing on the edge of a folklorian woods and had a choice to turn and go back, to travel further into the forest of this music. We chose to wander deeper in. I've never done this before. In the past, I've always treated albums as one-off eras and moved into planning the next one after an album was released. Taylor continues, there was something different with Folklore. In making it, I felt less like I was departing and more like I was returning. I love the escapism I found in these imaginary, not imaginary tales. I love the ways you welcome me, fans. You welcome the dreamscapes and tragedies and epic tales of lost love and found into your lives. So I just kept writing them. Justin Werner, who's the principal and really is Bon Iver, was heavily involved in this, more than he was even in Folklore. He wrote and played instruments, and of course Aaron Dessner produced every track except Jack Antonoff, who produced 1 track. This compilation, this EP, which dropped on the 21st of January, it has 6 songs. Champagne Problems, number 1, which was the number 2 cut on Evermore. Happiness, which was the number 7 cut on Evermore. It's Time to Go, which was a Folklore bonus track. It wasn't in the original drop from Folklore. It didn't drop until, I believe it was January 8th of this year in a bonus album. Tolerate It, which is an Evermore, a famous number 5, which is usually her most emotional album, and My Tears Ricochet was the number 5 album on Folklore. That song makes me cry. To me, I love that song. It's one of my favorite, probably my favorite Taylor song. Tolerated was the number 5 on Evermore. Coney Island, featuring the Nationals, which is the band that Aaron Dessner is in, or one of the bands, he's in multiple projects, was cut number 9 on Evermore, and Hoax was on Folklore, number 16. So we've got, of the 6 songs, 4 are from Evermore, 1 is from the original album of Folklore, and 1 is from a bonus album that was dropped later on Folklore. So 2 from Folklore, 4 from Evermore. What are they about? They're all about grappling with failed relationships. Champagne Problems is about a woman who was proposed to and she turned it down from the first person of the woman. Happiness is kind of the opposite. It's about a woman, or the singer being Taylor, again singing in first person, has a failed relationship and has her heart broken. It's Time to Go is about, not really specifically the way I read it, about romantic relationships, but it's more about realizing when people in your life, it's time for you to let them go. And I'm going to get more into that when I talk about each individual song. Tolerated is a pretty deep song, and it's really despairing song. I read a lot of the forums about the Reddit discussion forums, and there's a lot of despair brought up when people talk about this song because they're afraid it's going to happen to them. It's about, people have different opinion what's it about, but it seems to be, on the face of it, it's about a relationship where the man is just tolerating the woman and she loves him deeply. And there's some different theories, or it could be a father and a child. It could be either one. Coney Island is about young love and how people have drifted apart, grew up together, and really experienced their youth in suburbia. And Coney Island is about that, and it's nostalgic, is my take on it. And Hoax is another song about failed relationships. So let's talk about Champagne Problems. First thing that jumped out at me about Champagne Problems is that it is in the entire song. I could be mistaken. Usually, even if Taylor uses the same progression for the verse and the chorus, she changes it up for the bridge. And I did go through the whole song, and it seems like it's all the same progression. But that's the beauty of it. And it's a very, very common, popular progression, which is a 1-5-6-4, which means it's the first degree of the chord, the 1-5 to the 5th to the 6th, which is a minor, back to the 4. So in the key of C, it'd be C, G, A minor, F. That's probably one of the most common progressions today in music, and it's in the key of C. So these are just, nothing special as far as those parts about it, but she uses that and turns it into a phenomenal song. That chord progression, the same order, but starting with the 6 instead of starting with the 1, is called the sensitive female chord progression. I think that's funny. It also has been used a lot in pop punk, and also, this is again starting from the 6, which is not exactly the one that Taylor used, but the same order, but she starts from the 1, which is more conventional. Aaron wrote the music for that. And it's also very heroic and has been used in a lot of Hollywood movies and trailers. So it's a very common, so that may be one reason why it seems somewhat familiar. I mean, great music draws something that makes you feel like you've heard it before necessarily, or there's something familiar about it. And if you make music that are so far out there, people will have a hard time onboarding it. Stravinsky, when he came out with his symphony in the early part of the night, about 100 years ago, it was so far away from what people are used to that it was like noise to them. So if you're a great songwriter, you make something new, but you also make sure that you have something that sounds familiar. And I believe that's what Aaron Dessner and Taylor did in the song Champagne Problems. Champagne Problems was written by Taylor and her boyfriend, Joe Alwyn, and is under the pseudonym of William Bowery. but by all accounts, he helped her write it, which is really cool when you're co-writing with your boyfriend. And it was produced by Taylor and Aaron Dessner. And Aaron played all the instruments on it. So the piano at the end, that's Aaron Dessner playing that. Some people have called it a disenchantment ballad. And okay, champagne problems is a common phrase if you're not familiar. For, there's also a term that's used, first world problems. When people complain, I don't have cell service or what have you. I mean, a champagne problem is the same kind of thing. I mean, compared to people that are starving in the world and worrying about where their next meal is going to come from, not having cell service, or not being able to watch your favorite show but it's being preempted by a special event, something like that is considered a first world problem. And that's also been segued into the phrase champagne problems. So Taylor was very, very clever in using that. But in this particular case, it's not that kind of a problem. It's a problem where he has the Dom Perignon and he has his family there, his sister, his mom, everybody is there, and the person in the story. And he's going to propose to her. He's got his mother's ring in his pocket, and he gets on his knees, and Taylor writes in the song that the person who is singing the song, who said no, she says, you never really understand what you want until someone's on your knees asking you. And she turns the guy down, and of course his heart is broken. And she feels kind of bad about it, the singer of the song. It's a great song. I love it. It's one of my favorite songs off of the Evermore album. Madeleine Crone called it a disenchantment ballad. I mean, some of the structure that she uses, it's like 3 lines and then champagne problems. Because I dropped your hand while dancing, left you out there standing, dancing, standing, crestfallen on the landing. So she's dancing, standing, landing, champagne problems. Your mom's ring in your pocket, my picture in your wallet. Your heart was glass, I dropped it. I love the dropped it. That's really modern rhyming, because dropped it in pocket. Cole Porter wouldn't have done that. That's where rhyming has evolved to modern rhyming. It's very, very clever, very modern. And then also Dom Perignon, you brought it. No crowd of friends applauded. Your hometown skeptics called it champagne problems. You had a speech, you're speechless. Love slipped beyond your reaches, and I couldn't give a reason. So, and there's some internal rhymes in here, cool, which are really cool. So, your mom's ring in your pocket, my picture in your wallet. So the ring, picture. So there's some, that's usually you rhyme the word at the end of the phrase. But if you can get internal rhymes that are in the middle of the phrase, and she does it in consecutive lines, it's whether it was intentional or accidental, it's just really cool. It all ties it all together. It's a great song. The next song is Happiness, and Happiness has got a tie to, it's number 7 song on Evermore, and it's got a tie to the number 7 song, 7th cut in order in the song, in the album Folklore. And the connection is they're tied together with In the Trees. And the song in Folklore starts by talking about, I climb up in the tree. Happiness starts with referencing when I'm above the tree. So some have said, whereas 7 is talking about childhood friends, Happiness is talking about from adult perspective. And the person's heart is broken. The first line is, honey, when I'm above the trees, I see this for what it is, but now I'm down in it, years I've given. And the person is very upset and even says fury, and at one point says some nasty things, but says, I hope she'll be a beautiful fool who takes my spot next to you, takes my spot. No, I didn't mean that, sorry. I can't see the facts through my fury. And basically the guy is just wants his forgiveness so he can move on, and she says that essentially in the song, when she becomes her new person, she'll be able to give that to him and she will forgive him. And there was comments that I read. Taylor explained Happiness this way. She said, the song is about the realization that maybe the only path to healing is to wish happiness on the one who took it away from you. That's cool. I like that. As far as the music, Aaron Dessner had worked on the music that was used for Happiness since 2019, and was going to use it for another project, Big Red Machine, which he's in with the Bon Iver guy. But Taylor heard it and loved the instrumental and ended up writing to it days, and it was the last song they wrote for Evermore. It was finished days before they started mastering Evermore. So it was the last song written on Evermore, even though it was cut number 7. That has nothing to do with the order, but it was the last song they wrote. So that's Happiness. The next one is It's Time to Go, which was the bonus track off Folklore and wasn't released until January of this year because it was on a bonus album. And it's one of my favorite ones, Time to Go, because, well, selfishly, I like slide guitar, lap steel. I'm not sure if it's lap steel, slide guitar, pedal steel. I believe it's lap steel. I searched everywhere for the credits on this song and who played that because I'm a guitar player and I like that kind of music. I liked slide. I couldn't find who did it, but I believe it's probably the same guy. I believe it's the same guy who did lap steel on Evermore in general. There's a credit on Evermore for Josh Kaufman, who played some lap steel. But I can't be sure if he's the one who played the lap steel on this song because it's not listed. It only goes to the 16th cut, which was before the bonus, this particular reference. Those are those who think this is about Taylor's fallout with her ex-bestie, Karlie Kloss, the model, because there's some mentions that would imply that. But as I read the lyrics, I think it's a general overview painting a picture of different scenarios when we have to think about leaving people behind. And there's even a reference to Scott Borchetta in there as far as I'm concerned. So the reference that makes people think it's about Karlie Kloss is when the words of a sister come back in whispers that prove she was not in fact who she seemed. Not a twin from your dreams. She's a crook who was caught. That's some pretty strong words. And apparently Taylor has never discussed whether or not she's still friends or not friends with Karlie Kloss. And Karlie Kloss claims that they're still friends, but they haven't been pictured in public, or a picture hasn't been taken of them in public since 2018. So that's 3 years now. We're in 2021 now. Taylor did say that she had to learn how to leave some friendships behind as she got older. And she did not attend her friend's wedding when she got married. So when Karlie Kloss, if they're the besties, she would attend her friend's marriage. That's pretty telltale right there. They were often described as twins in the press, and not anymore. And then there's one more reference that I'm 100% certain, well, 99%, the only one would be Taylor that would be certain, is there's a reference, I think it's the third verse, I gave it my all, he gave me nothing at all, then wondered why I left. Now he sits on his throne, in his palace of bones, praying to his greed. He's got my past, frozen behind glass, but I've got me. And I would say that's got to be Scott Borchetta, because frozen in glass, got my past frozen in glass. When you get a gold record or a platinum record, they put it in a glass frame, and it's like a picture, but it's behind glass. And people who have been connected in the business, whether it's the artist or the label, they have these in the entryway. This is your prize, this is your trophy, and you show that off. And I believe that is what she's referring. But there's a lot of different references to, so when your dinner is cold and the chatter gets old, you ask for the tab. In the moment again, he's insisting that friends look at each other like that. So there's a reference where there's a significant other and he's saying that we're friends, but I'm perceiving that it's a woman who's looking at him like that. He's looking at her. And so eventually the singer says goodbye. And then the next one is when when words a sister said comes back in whispers, which is probably about her ex-best friend. And then in the third verse, it's about Scott Borchetta, I believe. Another reference that almost certainly is 15 years, 15 million tears, begging to my knees bled. I gave it my all, he gave me nothing at all, then he wondered why I left. She was 15 years with Scott Borchetta. So she's collecting all of the lessons that she's learned and putting them in one song. You have to learn to leave when his time is right. Tolerate It is a very dark song, and it's interesting. It's cut number 5, and it's in 5/4 time. Wikipedia says 10/8, and I would say, if I had to count it, I think the verse is in 10/8, but the chorus is in 5/4. Seemed to me But these things can be, it could be either way. Now, 5/4, most music, most modern music, most pop music, most music that's on the Hot 100 is 4/4 time. So 4 beats to a measure. And the bottom number has to do with the notation. The 4 means it's quarter notes, so 1 beat is a quarter note. You can also have, some are saying 10/8, so it'll be 10 beats to a measure, and the notation is eighth notes. That's almost immaterial to how it plays. It's only if you're looking at a notation and you're reading it from notation. But how many beats per measure is the key thing that we want to know about. And so 5 beats per measure is pretty unusual. There's, if you're into jazz, there's David Brubeck's Take 5, which is in 5/4. It's a pretty famous jazz standard. And there's Mission Impossible. Theme from Mission Impossible is in 5/4 time. And you have to count it out to realize it, because we're so familiar to hearing that we don't realize it's not in. But if you try to dance to it, you would definitely understand. And so the most common is 4/4, and then there's 3/4, which is like a waltz. Dun, 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 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, dun, 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 dancing to a waltz. And then there's 2/4 time, which is like a polka. Boom, 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 boom. Those are, I mean, polka isn't common or popular, but 3/4, I mean, 3/4 is still fairly popular. 4/4 is by far 95% of the songs on the Hot 100. They're definitely 4/4. 5/4 is a little out there, so it's very clever. I mean, it adds, because it's not what people are expecting, and it adds that angst to a very angsty song. And it's also cut number 5. Very clever, Taylor. I see what you did. Tolerate It is about, it's heartbreaking, really, because it's about someone who feels that they're being taken for granted, or not even taken for granted necessarily, but just tolerated. And in the first verse, she talks about how the singer notices everything this guy does. Now, whether he could be, some of the thoughts that it's a child to a father, although I don't think that, because there's some later lyrics that imply, she said, I could end all of this and end our lives. I mean, so basically leave him. I think it's about a romantic relationship or a marriage. But it also could be related to specific historic famous couples. And the most common one in the forums that I saw was Princess Diana and Prince Charles. Because it talks about how the guy is so much older and wiser. She keeps repeating that. And Prince Charles was considerably older. Another historic couple could be Frida Kahlo and Diego, which Mexican artists. And that could reference to, there's a reference where I paint you in my best colors. Frida was a painter. And there's some other references that could apply to that. It's a pretty obscure one. I don't know if Taylor's a fan of Frida's art. When I was in Mexico, Mexico City, I went to the house where she lived. And it's fascinating stuff. She was paralyzed, and she wrote, at the end of her life, she had a mirror on the ceiling, and she painted by looking at the mirror, because she couldn't even look down and paint that way. So she lived through a lot, famous painter, and check it out, Frida Kahlo. There was a phenomenal movie that was made, and I can't think of the artist's name, actress's name, who championed it. It is really what brought me to understand who Frida Kahlo was. Or it could be a child, because a child who you're so much older and wiser, it's their daughter. So we don't know, and it's nebulous enough that it could be any of those, but I personally feel it's the relationship. And when I got into the forums where they were talking about that, it really made me sad, because there were people saying this reminded me of the way my dad treated my mom. It breaks my heart. And some women saying that this makes me scared of getting married because I don't want this to happen to me. So it is a very sad thing, and Taylor did even talk about how some of the songs on these albums were about relationships, and how, when she was talking about the one that she did with the Haim sisters, and it was about killing someone and getting away with murder. She said relationships will evolve, and they're not satisfactory, and it can even end up to as far as murder. But that's not on this EP, so I won't talk about that. That's really a tongue-in-cheek fun one. Coney Island appears to be about kids that were They were together when they were probably teenagers. And there's some references. We were the place to be, like a mall before the internet, the suburban dreams, sorry for not winning you an arcade ring. And now drifted apart. Sorry I didn't say your name when I was at the podium. That would be Taylor talking about maybe someone that she was very close to when she was a child, whether it was a romantic or a child or a teen or maybe even a preteen, with those crushes. I sat on a bench in Coney Island wondering where my baby went. So it's looking back on the past and being nostalgic. The interesting thing about Coney Island is that it's got a male voice, and I thought it was Bon Iver in it, to be honest, because he also was in Folklore, and he's got that deep baritone voice. But no, it was the singer from the Nationals. Matt Berninger, the lead vocalist from the National, is the one who sang with her. And it got mixed reviews. Some of the critics didn't think it matched. I think it's a little harsh. Critics can always be harsh. Pitchfork's Sam Sodomsky said Beringer's vocals felt out of place in the song, but Craig Jensen's from New York was complimentary toward him and saying his baritone and Swift's delicate vocals matched and gave a great, interesting, putting them together made a great song. That's Coney Island. And then finally, Hoax is the final track from Folklore. It was written by Taylor and Aaron Dessner. Talks about the breakdown of a relationship and the pain that comes with it. Dessner says it was a big departure. He thinks it's one of his favorites. Aaron Dessner, who was her co-writer, and he said there's a peace and a sadness, but it's a hopeful sadness. There's no music video for the song, according to this, unless there's one recently, but it has had 4.5 million views of the lyric video. So there were people who thought this was about Joe and Taylor, and they were concerned that Taylor was actually breaking up. Fans were very upset and nervous that actually might be happening. But based by all the things that I can see, I mean, she's writing new songs with him. I don't think there's any problems with her relationship, and I wish her the best. I hope that she has happiness and love. We all deserve that, and I hope that she has found it with Joe, and that they have a very happy, successful, long-term relationship. So that's all I have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that I've shared something that was interesting to you, informative, and that you can think about some of these great songs that came off of this EP that just got dropped. Please let me know in the comments what you think. I try to respond to every comment, and give me comments on what you would like me to do a video on next. I know there were a couple requests for me to review the entire album Evermore, and I'm sorry that I haven't done that yet. The holidays got me behind, and then when I saw this dropped, this is only a 6-song project, and I could do this review fairly quickly. And so since it only dropped today as I'm recording this, and this will go live tomorrow morning on my YouTube channel, hopefully it'll be of use to you and give you some information or discussion, some thoughts. And I will try to go back and review the rest of the songs on the Evermore. I just love Taylor's songwriting. Please leave comments below. Again, I appreciate you. I like the fact that you're fans and you're engaging and write comments. It means a lot. So see you next time.
Hey everybody, this is Tim Wolf. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please go to the link down below in the description. There's a Bitly link. Listen to my music at Spotify. I appreciate it very much. It means a lot to an artist if you follow them. If you would be kind enough to like the video if you enjoyed it and share it with your friends. Finally, be sure to subscribe. And then also there are other videos on this screen that you can watch. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.